Welcome back to The Leader's Edge, and tonight is Season 2, Episode 9 with Grace Abella-Zata talking to us about managing your executive career. And just to reintroduce you to Grace, for those who may have missed the introduction during Part 1 or Part A, Grace's professional expertise is in job person organization fit resource planning and acquisition. She is currently the CEO of the IRCI Institute Global Executive Board. She's always been interested in research and groundbreaking perspectives in leadership and management. And as president of Corporate Executive Search, a pioneer in the Philippines, she has had access to practical knowledge and evolving insights about executive talent management. She is also a past president of the People Management Association of the Philippines. So, Grace, welcome back. Thank you so much for taking time out again for part two of our show.
My pleasure, Dino.
So, let me prepare your slides so that we can continue where we left off. Go ahead,
And
Grace.
while you are doing that, let me just summarize briefly part one of our discussion, where I said that there are important things that recruiters can deduce from the CV. Okay, so one is job stability. Number two, thinking and communication skills. Number three, the breadth and depth of your experience. And number four, career progression and achievement. So we use that as a jump off point. And now talk about frequently asked questions about managing your career. So number one, what kind of experiences and achievements should I seek? Okay, here is one advice. When you write your CV, please do not write your job description because many roles are actually generic and there is no need to write a job description. For instance, if you are the head of account management, you do not need to say that you meet with clients because naturally you are expected to meet with clients. Hiring managers would want to look at the kind of experiences and achievements that you have. Okay? So when I interview, especially if this is one down the CEO, this is my question. When you came in, what was the business situation? Okay? Why were you hired? What were you expected to do? So I always see, was this a turnaround situation? Was the company losing money or market share? Okay. Is it a growth situation? So there were opportunities in the market and you were hired to take advantage of these opportunities. So it could be maintenance. You just maintain the situation because everything is fine and dandy. Okay? Or it could be a startup situation. Okay? So startup could mean a new company or there is transformation because of digitalization and a new vision is built around the new technologies. Okay? And therefore, in a way, it is a startup. So it would be good to have these kinds of experiences. And normally, companies, when they hire, especially for one down the CEO and CEO, they will look for someone who has the kind of experience required at that point in the life of the company. Okay. All right. We talked about achievements. Now, how do you get breadth and depth of experience? What are we talking about here? So let's see let us see my let me look at my next slide, the one that comes after this. I think this will give. Okay, we're talking about functional expertise. Generally, at one down the CEO, okay, the person, the incumbent, that doesn't need to have a deep expertise of all the disciplines in his function, right? Or all the sub functions of his particular function, because you have people to do that. Okay, uh, except in certain situations. I'm thinking about the HR director of a company which is unionized. In that case, the client, we look for someone who has deep experience in labor relations. So that's an example. Well, the other functional expertise that executives should be looking at right now is technical expertise in the use of the new technologies, because right now it is a combination of domain expertise like marketing, for instance, or HR, that is domain expertise, and then how do you use the new technologies. This is particularly true for marketing, for instance. Like, I think all marketing professionals now need to know about digital marketing. And digital marketing is not simply the paid ads. There are many capabilities within digital marketing. And that is why there's such a thing now as reverse mentoring, because the younger people are mentoring the marketing bosses, because now even the key performance indicators are changing. Performance management is one aspect is one capability in digital marketing. And Dino, we are getting roles that we have never heard of before, like growth hacking lead. Wow, what is that? Hacking lead. Okay. So, okay, here's the other thing. I think what companies would be looking for right now, because things are changing with the new technologies, people, executives who are intellectually curious, who like to learn, who are not afraid of technology. I mean, you don't have to be a digital native to be amazed by technology and to love working with it and to study it. Okay, so that's functional expertise. Okay, industry experience. Many roles are industry neutral, like CFO, for instance. I mean, you don't really have to have deep experience in the industry, but it would be a good thing to have exposure in several industries rather than just be a specialist in one industry. So if an opportunity comes up and it's good and it's a different industry, I think it's something that you should look at. Okay, there's this interesting thing about multinational versus local experience. A multinational company will most often, like in, I don't know, maybe 95% of the cases, look for somebody with multinational experience. Why is that? Because of the culture, because of the kind of discipline in thought, in the ways of working that are present in multinationals. Also because they want somebody who is already at ease working in matrix organizations, who reports to a regional or to a global boss. Okay, so the question is it always good to just work for a multinational? Actually, there is also a big advantage in working for local companies, and many local conglomerates are now employers of choice. And one reason is that they provide greater flexibility for executives to practice creative thinking or to craft their own strategy from scratch. Because normally in multinationals, the strategies are, well, I won't say templated, but the strategies come from head office or come from regional. But I know now, I know that I am aware that that is already changing, that because of the need for multinationals to become more agile in the markets where they operate, the local executives are given greater empowerment. So it's a good thing to have both multinational and local experience.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's interesting, I think. So, to wrap up our discussion, maybe the question is, when is the right time to move? Or what are the good reasons for moving? Correct? So, I
Yes.
think there is no hard or fast rule. Just basic principles. I think when you have already, do not move until you have not made an impact yet in the company. Well, of course, you'd be in a bind if you find yourself in a situation where you really cannot make an impact for some reason which is not your fault. Correct. Okay. And then it would be a good move, naturally, na? And everybody knows this, if it is a bigger role, right? And then at a certain age, when you're still in mid-level management, I mean, that's not a good thing. If you stay too long in mid-level management or supervisory or middle manager, because we look at the career trajectory. And if you have not assumed higher level roles at a certain age, like maybe 40, 45, then that doesn't look too good. And then it's the right time to move when it's going to be, if the role will add breadth and depth to your CV, to your experience, when you will be able to gain different kinds of achievements, as I mentioned earlier, a growth situation, a turnaround situation. Okay, so the general principle is, and then yeah, being able, having bigger options, because when you have greater depth and greater breadth in your experience, when you reach the top, I think there are more options for you. Okay. So yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. I think
Mhm.
I learned more from the short time that you explained part two than I have from speaking with other people in your industry. Magnificent, Grace.
That's
Um,
very nice of you to say.
you certainly deserve it because you made me realize that when some of my friends who are executives come to me and say, Dino, I have to move because my job is dead end. It's a family-owned business, granted that they pretty much are stretched all over Bulacan, for example, but there's really no way for me to move any further than where I am now because the boss's wife is the vice president, his father-in-law is this, his eldest son is that, and so there's really no point in me staying beyond where I am right now. So,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So maybe in that situation, you send him, you send me his CV, okay? I mean, that would be a good reason to move, I think. Yeah. Mhm.
Indeed.
And here's the other thing, Dina, I'm thinking. They are saying that maybe in the next 20 years, 15 years or so, and this is an advice for people in their 20s. Okay. So when you reach that age, organizations will be flatter because of technology. You will get rid of mid-level managers, and therefore the competition at the top, yeah, becomes even fiercer, even more fierce. So people in their 20s should even now be preparing themselves. By the way, I think I forgot something very important. The ability to manage a team is also very important. Is something that our clients are also looking at. Yeah, because you get things done through people, right? So you manage your one downs, but there are also leaders of leaders. That's also a different thing. So that's
Terrific.
the other thing.
Yeah, that insight also resonates with what I have observed in industries. Like, for example, but I won't name the company. I taught at a company where the one in charge, this was at a senior management level, was in charge of technical people who almost all of them had white hair, and their boss was somebody who was barely just 3 years at his job, and that was because in that company they had a very strong union, and therefore a lot of people didn't want to get bumped upstairs and lose the benefits that they've been accumulating over the years. So many of their, for example, linemen would rather stick it out to where they are so that they could retire without any problems. So
Right.
indeed, you're right. But let me ask you a question, Grace. And I'm curious because I understand even call centers and some BPOs are hiring people who have presumably retired already, but they're taking them in because apparently there is some feedback that they make more mature people who answer calls, who make calls. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. And that's I mean that's a good thing about our call centers and our BPO industry. It has absorbed competent people who otherwise would not be given the chances, given the opportunity. I think they've worked it out among themselves. I mean, I think yeah, in the BPOs, I think you find the greatest diversity. So, I have a friend, she was a manager in a marketing company, and then when she got married and then had kids and then wanted to work again, and so she worked with people who were calling her mommy, and it's okay. Yeah, and her boss was younger than her, and they were just calling her mommy, and it was fine. I think it's people are people. So long, I think, as you are authentic, right? So long as you are sincere and you really go out of your way to really listen to others, and your team knows that you have their interests at heart. I think it will be okay, whatever the diversity is, and that is why EQ is very important, right? Um, well, that's something you will not see in the CV, of course, except if you find somebody who keeps on moving and you suspect discontent, no? Perpetual discontent all the time. But that is why character is also important. In the interview, usually you get personality, but character is important because EQ is both skills and an internal quality of character. So, how do you assess internal quality of character? Okay, of course, you look at if a person shows resilience, right?
Mhm.
Then maybe you already see the internal quality of character. That is why I think if you go for interview or if you write your CV without revealing what you should not be revealing about a former employer, you should give the person you are talking to or the hiring manager a sense of the challenges that you were able to overcome,
Mhm.
because that is always a good indication. Even in the CV you can do that, actually, and that is when you will see how great a communicator they are, how well they write, because it requires skill to be subtle, okay, about and so that the recruiter will already read between the lines.
Mm. Indeed, we live in a new world now. Never mind that we're in the new normal, but in our world now, you will find team leadership such an important quality, and I'm glad that you mentioned it because so many companies now will have situations where they're surrounded by a huge diversity of people, and the one in charge may not have been the first person you would have thought was in charge when you entered the room. So many of our assumptions will have to be uh,
Ah,
forgotten and reevaluated. So, wow,
right.
Grace,
I'm gonna. I want to share something because
yes, please.
yesterday I gave an online talk to a group of 150. These are people in finance, accounting, and finance, and we had a survey. And do you know that about 70 to 80% feel a significant amount of anxiety over managing remote teams? By the way, that is another competency that leaders must have right now. How do you manage remote teams, right? Because I think the new normal will extend beyond the pandemic. We have seen that remote working actually works. And
Yes.
the question for leaders is, how do you employ the enduring principles of leadership and management in a remote workplace situation? because
True.
the principles I think are enduring, but there are maybe changes in how you do it. That's another topic, another interesting topic
Yeah, indeed. And
entirely.
maybe in the future we could invite you to
Oh
again
yeah,
to talk
yes, yes,
about
yes,
that
of course.
specifically. Oh
Yes.
my
Mm.
gosh. I love the way that your talk tied together the presentations and the insights of other guests as well, like Obit Policarpi, who talked about Leadership Mountain, and let's see, there was Jerry Plana, who talked about engaging, being the engaging leader, because
All
this,
my good friends. Huh?
yeah, this just ties it all together because indeed, you can't just have one particular feather in your cap, but to really make your CV stand out and to really be hireable, you need to have many skills and to cultivate your breadth and experience in several areas of your capability. So Grace,
Right.
once more, our sincerest thank you for your taking time out to be our guest tonight. And I'd like to invite you and all of our viewers for next episode. That's episode 10, where we invite Jocelyn Pick, who will be talking about diving deeper with emotional intelligence. That's episode 10. So, Grace, any last words for
Yeah.
those who might need your special help?
Okay, maybe I was talking about ideal situations, and you will say that, but it also depends on the opportunities that present themselves, which is also true. But it has been said, luck favors the person who is prepared. Okay, and I think we can do some preparation. And I really hope that I've been able to share something of value with you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Grace. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please remember that learning is a never ending process with unlimited vistas. Good night.